We're at 7 o'clock, so we'll rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, we will call the meeting to order, and the school board will convene to close session tonight to consider the employment, promotion, compensation, or performance evaluation data of any public employee over which the governmental body has jurisdiction or exercises responsibility under Wisconsin statutes 19.85, paren 1, paren C, a high school, middle school English teacher, a special education aide, and to consider and discuss employee performance and supervisory oversight for specific employees relative to school operations in the 2020-21 school year.
The special education aide, Mrs. Margraf, did interviews on Monday and today, and she has a couple candidates she wants to bring back for a second round, so she doesn't have a recommendation tonight because she has two quality
Okay.
candidates she's bringing back, so we won't be discussing that.
Okay, so we won't be
in closed session.
looking at that one. Okay, are there any items that anyone wishes to have removed from the consent agenda?
Not removed, but there is a typo in the motion on policy 0142.5. I made the motion, not my dad.
What was the correction?
0142.5
In minutes,
in the minutes.
Carl, you have that noted?
Got it.
Okay.
Thank
Then
you.
the consent agenda will be approved by consent with that change, and that includes a donation from the Retired Educators Association of Doran Kewanee County for $247 to the lunch department. We have the three administrator reports. They were with us last night, so they always give good reports, are off tonight. Mr. Lutke.
Last night, Dick, you asked about the surveys. This spring at 20, we had 87 staff members taken to the survey. Last year it was 82, and in 2018 it was 76 staff members. So we're up a couple.
They participated.
That participated.
So 20%, roughly 20 people didn't, or?
Yeah, we got a little over 100 people on staff, so it's a percentage of that. So I think 87 was 71% last night. And I can't go back farther than 2018 because I don't have access to those surveys on school perceptions because I wasn't here for the 2017 survey. So it's 76, 82, 87, that's pretty much all the same. Not too bad, it's a good participation rate. And exit interviews have been issued for Liz Junion, Carrie Mulrain, and Kim Souther, but we have not received any responses back yet. That's all I have from really new.
I don't have anything. 2020-21 Planning Committee, do you have something you want to talk about there other than you talked about last night?
I contacted School Perceptions today. They sent me a copy of their survey, so we'll start with that next week, and we're excited about DPI. Well, as excited as we can be from a report from DPI, but yeah, we're excited about Monday's information coming out, but it's 80 pages long, so yeah, that's way out there.
A little reading. The Athletic Committee met on June 9th. Do you have anything you want to tell us about?
Just some of the things that we talked about are under discussion action items. The varsity head coach job description, we kind of went through that, what Brooke had put together. Felt it was pretty well put together. There weren't a lot of changes to it.
Coaches ratio.
Coaches ratio.
It was a good, she had a media agenda, we went through a lot of stuff, a couple of items are coming here. I think for lots of reasons, but I think we're gonna have them as needed initially, which means probably more often, especially with the COVID and the WIA stuff, just so everyone can be on the same page to the best of our ability to get it to you guys.
WIA just came out with a statement today on starting up this summer, and we'll review it next week, so that's just brand new today, having had time to read the report yet.
Nobody's gonna be able to do anything, I read it.
Okay, all right, you read it, okay, that's more than I had.
There's no, it's one person ball. So basketball players can dribble and shoot, but one ball per person. Volleyball players, one ball per
They can
person.
serve.
They can serve and they can practice the spike and that's it. The football players, the quarterback can't take the ball from the center. So only the runners are gonna be able to do anything. But then they said that may loosen as time goes on.
Anyways, the meeting was, I thought, very well, and we'll have some more of them, and we'll keep bringing in, well, through Brooke's efforts, or Mrs. Tank, she'll keep bringing new efforts to the board as needed, but we took a couple on the board today.
Very impressed with her professionalism. I mean, she got a good agenda laid out for Dave and I, and good documents.
From
Yeah.
that meeting, then she reached out to the town for working on a memorandum,
So, yeah.
and she needs some assistance from the committee on forming a joint committee with the town board, because she's running a little bit of a roadblock, and so I think that has to be that memorandum should be written by our committee and members of their group too, so it's mutual.
If I to comment on that? if it's
Yeah,
all
go
right,
ahead, absolutely.
She kind of briefed us on
Yeah.
some of that in initiation, and we all agreed a memorandum was good. She gave us some feedback that there is, or a perception of maybe poor communication from where, just generally between the two organizations. So I think that's a great idea, and she hasn't reached out yet, but I think we're very actively ready to support that, because
When she reported to me, I told her to just wait until we talked and move forward, because it's more than a task that an athletic director should have to
Correct,
take on.
yeah, I would
herself.
agree with that.
Right. I think it's workable.
It's important because she needs to get it organized because those kids need to get back to those activities.
Well, and just
when
because-
they can for their own.
If you guys read a report, but just to emphasize a few things, I mean, she has inventoried this entire school, every closet, nook and cranny, which I think is awesome. Yeah, I mean, and the organization that's starting to come from that, I know she's went through the shed, so I'm just highlighting some of her comments, but I think it's great. I think that she's doing that bleacher report to all the coaches, getting all the coaches on the same page. So, initial signs are very positive, so.
She'll have it all organized so when the kids can get back, she can focus on when the kids get back to their activities. Sue, did you have anything timely that you want to report on that wasn't in your report?
Yes, Governor Evers has announced that more than $46 million will go to K-12 schools to assist with the challenges faced relating to COVID-19 pandemic. And the money will prioritize students and districts that have the highest remote learning needs and the most significantly affected by the COVID-19 pandemic. This money is in addition to more than 54 million K-12 schools and higher education money that came through the CARES Act. So that is good news. And the DPI will be providing additional information about the funding process for K-12 schools. This just came out today. And then Attorney General Josh Call has been authorized to join 17 other states and the District of Columbia in filing a complaint against the federal administration's new restrictions to Title IX. I had shared with you information on Title IX before and the new changes. And this complaint is designed to stop the new regulations from weakening protections for sexual assault and harassment victims and block the creation of inequitable disciplinary proceedings from kindergarten through college. So there's a lot going on about Title IX now and the revisions, and this is just one more piece of that. Then I did send to you today the complete equity statement from WASB along with the guiding questions that WASB is providing for districts to move forward with equity efforts. And I did go on the DPI website, and there are 8 schools so far who have done equity statements: Burlington, Wausau, La Crosse, Oshkosh, Milwaukee, Brown Deer, Superior, and Sun Prairie. They can be good models for us if we wish to do that. There are a number of areas, I think, that relate to our efforts, like how does our curriculum development process ensure culturally relevant learning experiences for all of our students? What process do we have in place to prioritize diversity and cultural competency in hiring? How are we ensuring that our dress codes are sensitive to all cultural differences? What steps are we taking to ensure that our students interact with a full cross-section of our society and are prepared to respectfully interact with everyone they meet? What are we doing to ensure that student voice is encouraged and used in our decision-making? And I would say, if we're interested in developing a task force to look at all of these equity issues, I would certainly be happy to be involved with that. I did work in Green Bay as an equity coordinator. I've had lots and lots of training in that area and would be happy to follow through with any of that.
Anything else?
That's it.
I did see a memo from Kitchens today that they are going to mail ballot applications to 2.7 million Wisconsin voters. So I don't know how that'll affect us in November, but there'll be a lot of mail-in voting, I'm sure. Okay, and then we saw the athletic director's report, and that's, evidence of her, all the work she's been doing and her organization.
Lisa, you gotta go back to the budget report.
Whoops,
Skip the budget.
skip the budget and facilities, okay?
Okay. So for the budget, for revenue for this current year, 1920, we estimated, whenever Carl and I do our estimations for revenue, we always estimate low. Our revenue for open enrollment, we had at $785,000, and we're gonna be a couple $100,000 over, so that's a good thing when revenue's higher. Also in the Fund 50, which is food services, that budget with COVID ended up all out of sorts. Casey and his department was about $15,000 short of revenue from the lunches that they were gonna get, but they didn't serve any lunches in person in March, April, and May. But with the deliveries we made in March, April, and May, he increased his revenue in those areas by $78,982, but that's a different line item. With it, though, and however, in Fund 50 then comes the expenses of transporting the meals out, paying the drivers, the mileage, the fuel for the buses, paying the aides for their time, and a little bit extra time it took for them to focus on the meals. So he did generate more revenue in one area. He was on target to get the revenue we thought he would get from the meals, but that fell off, but then he increased, but we have some increased expenses. But that's good. Also under expenses for open enrollment out, Carl and I estimated that our open enrollment out would be an expense of $827,642. It's gonna be about $50,000 less than that. We had more stay than go, so that was a good thing. And that's another thing, we estimated our expenses a little high to have ourselves covered, and that's okay. In our building and grounds fund right now, we have $104,123 that's not been spent, and we have projects going on in the music area and the elementary gym, and door number 16 is being fixed, and it hasn't started yet, but the roof on 1996 library and the 1965 library. So that $104,000 at the end of June should be transferred into Fund 46, which is for building and grounds projects on our 10-year maintenance. And July 1st will be the 5-year anniversary when we're allowed to remove those funds and use them, because you had to make your first initial deposit 5 years ago, and after you did it, had to sit for 5 years before you could open it up. And Sevastopol did a good job, 5 years of putting $1,000 into it to start that clock running. And so that money at the end of the month should get transferred over there. Our Fund 10, general fund expenses at this point is at 63.61% of the budget. In the last week of June, Carl will make sure he makes the transfers to Fund 27, which is a special education fund. And we have to remember, we have all the payrolls in June for year-round employees, plus we have payrolls for June, July, and August for the teachers coming out of that 63. When I say we have 63% spent, that's as of May 31st. So there's still roughly 3 months of expenses, and then some of our revenue comes in August and gets backdated to this year because that's how accounting works. But our budget's in pretty good shape, and so that's the budget update for 2019-20.
Have we, 'cause I don't remember getting equalization aid previously. Has the formula changed? Is the,
No, we don't get equalization
we've
aid.
got $275,000 in here.
Well, we get equalization aid, that's a categorical aid, which you're talking about.
Categorical.
You're talking about state aid. State aid, we get $12,000.
Yeah.
But that's within the,
That's in categorical.
Category.
yes, that's what they're, it's like
So it's
basically
not
a
the
per pupil
equalization
basis.
formula that we know.
No, that's outside the revenue
Yeah.
limit worksheet, that has nothing to do with the revenue limit worksheet, no. No.
When a student goes to like this Sturgeon Bay from this district,
Mhm.
we pay them money. Does everybody get paid the same? So if a student goes from Sturgeon Bay to here, they pay us the same as we pay them? Is it all based on their costs?
No. Each student in Wisconsin is worth a different amount of money. But
No, the per pupil amount, we don't pay them, they don't pay, what it is, DPI figures it all up, there's a set amount of money per student for regular education and an amount for special ed. You take all of those, add it up, no matter where they're coming from for us, we get that amount, and any student that we have leaving, same amount coming in and going out, and you take that amount, and we have, I think, 141 coming in. We have 141 open enrolled students in and 98 going out. So that's the difference why.
But when a kid open enrolls out, the residential district keeps roughly 2/3 of it, and the open enroll in gets the remaining third because they're your student. You actually receive more money for an open enrolled out student that lives in your district than a residential student that homeschools, because if they homeschool, you get zero.
Right.
And special education students, they changed the way their practice. They used to, you would receive a student who has special education needs, you would write up the cost associated with that student. Say they had to have a one-on-one aide or a nurse or whatever the situation would be. And if they were a very expensive student, you would send the district, the home district, that bill, and they would have to pay you that. And then you'd argue, because they'd say you're overcharging, and you'd go back and forth. Well, now the state of Wisconsin says all special education students are worth $12,000,
yeah.
which sometimes is,
You win.
sometimes you win, sometimes you lose. A student that's open enrolls, that's in speech and only receives speech for 20 minutes twice a week, that's one you're gonna win on. But if they need a one-on-one aid, you're gonna lose money on that student. But the state said that's just the way we're gonna do it, because there's too much arguing in between districts on you're overcharging, you padded it, and I know, because I used to argue with the neighboring district over certain items and stuff, so it was all.
So then last year, how many students went out of district, how many came in?
Oh, Carl will know that about, was 141 in?
141 students in?
We had 141 open enrolled in,
What?
98 out.
Yeah, so we're ahead.
That's 4K through 12. And once somebody registers to be an open enrolled student, whether it's open enrollment or alternative, once they register and accept it, they are ours or the other districts until they either graduate or their parents decide to take them out of the open enrollment status.
And the dollar amount you get per year, if a student in the middle of the year decides to go back to their residential district or go to a third district, then the percentage changes of how much you receive as well.
It's prorated.
It's prorated per day.
Right.
So it's
parochial schools are different.
Parochial schools are just like homeschool children, there's no money there, no.
If
But we-
they're not here on the third Friday, there's no money, right?
Well, there's the third
Not-
Friday
well-
and the second Friday in January.
And second Friday in January.
And you have to match them up, and it's a whole process that has to be done, and then if you're lucky enough to be
Yeah.
audited with the whole situation, you get that too.
What happens?
Carl's
if we're not
been,
in school?
you're supposed to get audited every 4 years, and Carl's been audited twice now, so. And it's supposed to be random, but
Have they, have you got to the point where they're leaning is we're not gonna be in school? So what if we're not in school the third Friday or whatever the heck it is?
if you're not
Zero?
if you're not physically here on the third Friday, then they look at if you came before the third Friday and after the third Friday. So if you're absent on September 17th, it's not gonna crush the district because you don't lose the $10,000. They say, okay, can you prove that this child was here before that date and after, and you can prove those two, and there's some things that aren't so nice, because like I've had a district that said, well, you've got to return your books on Monday, you can't turn them in on Friday, and when people are moving and stuff, and there's games played. Our neighbors are very nice, but there's other places where it's not, so.
As far as coming up, if we're not in school on the third Friday in September, don't know. I don't know how they're gonna handle that. Nothing has been put out
That's
yet
gotta
or
be in the
anything.
document on Monday.
And I don't think they're even going in that direction yet, what they're gonna do. I don't know.
They have to figure that out, they have to figure that out, so.
The parochial kids, we should buy them here those 2 days, the one in September and the one in, is our.
Field trip.
A field trip.
Talking to my wife about a field trip now.
The rule is if they're here for that one day, you have to teach them something. So you can't just have them go to the guidance counselor and fill out a schedule. You have to get them in class and teach them some math and reading, and you have to instruct them. Yes.
That'd be easy.
Mm-hmm. I've seen it done, yeah.
Did you have anything on facilities that you wanted to tell us?
I just want to let you know that the elementary gym has been painted and they sanded the floor today. Door number 16 is being replaced, that's the entrance by the north parking lot. In the music choir room, those rooms, our custodians painted them and moved out all the furniture out. And on June 29th, the appropriate cabinetry is coming so that all our kids can store their band instruments appropriately. And then I was gonna highlight the athletic shed, it was cleaned out. Someone told me it hasn't been cleaned out in 25 years and it looks really nice. Our custodial crew is now putting up the appropriate shelving. I talked to a couple of the coaches and they said, when you give me one shelf and I got a whole bunch of stuff, I'm gonna throw it all on that shelf and there it is. And they also didn't feel like they had the authority to throw junk out because it was school property and they didn't feel like they could. We had a shot put that was split in half. We would never use it for anything, but no one would physically throw it out because they didn't feel the power to. So yeah, it's a lot nicer. So that's what I got for building. I should touch on the building project too. We have $1 million in contingency money waiting. We've had 3 change orders so far. One was to increase the footings out here because they hit bedrock, and that was an increase of cost of $5,098. Where we took the option to remove the skylights on the second floor, they had to increase how much block wall they had to put up and wood across it. So that was an increase of cost of $13,168. And then Dan Sanborn and Dale Carlson met with Elin Electric and made sure they got the conduit electrical runs in the right spot in the floor. And we increased the cost by $7,752. So with those expenses so far, of the $1 million, we've spent $26,019. The greenhouse, we met and made an adjustment of $9,500, but that isn't in there yet. And then the downspouts on the 1991 section, we're running onto the wrong location for the new addition, so they don't have a cost for that yet, but it's estimated to be about $5,000. So I'm trying to watch those change orders as they come through because I get nervous. You get 5,000 here, 13,000 there, but there's not much you can do sometimes, but we're watching it. And then the bedrock removal allowance is $175,000. On June 5th, the expense so far was estimated to be at about $16,000. A week later, on June 12th, they have 50% of the work completed, but they did not have an update on the cost. I should get that on Monday. And this week, they're still working on it, and they should be done with the bedrock removal soon, but they thought the second half would be more expensive than the first half. And we knew we had bedrock out here, so I'm just hoping that the first estimate is 16,000. If that second week was about the same, even if the other half costs half that 175, I think there's gonna be some savings, if I don't know that yet.
Did they blast that?
I don't know how they did it, I didn't hear any blasting, but
normally-
they did cutting and
And
whatever.
they can't peel it off, so they got blasted.
Yeah, I don't know.
Chinking.
Yeah, it's expensive.
Yeah, that's really good chinking.
Yeah, right, so,
But you would typically hear that, I mean, so you,
Well, it shakes the
neighbors would know it, I mean.
I have, Carl.
That's what I'm saying, that's what I'm saying, is maybe they haven't had to do that yet.
Well, I
See, we haven't
know,
done this thing yet.
I know when my sister had hers done, it was just a poop. When she had hers,
Oh, all right.
they do it a lot different than they do in the quarry and that, but it was like.
Being hopeful.
They
They were optimistic on Monday during the owner's architect construction meeting, but until that final number comes in, it's what it is, so.
Kyle, did we have any expenses associated with that power, the electrical issue?
Not that I know of, but it only happened on, today's Thursday, it only happened on Tuesday, so I don't know.
Yeah, that shouldn't be our expenses, that should be
That
the
would be their
contract
expense.
because it was their
Keep
fault.
your eyes open, but it shouldn't come to us. That's their, they should handle it.
I have a meeting on Monday, I'll find out, yeah.
Yeah, it's a locator.
Mhm.
Didn't locate.
Unless they're working off of 1924.
The locator didn't locate, or the digger didn't notice the flake.
We're just very fortunate that no one was hurt and no damage was done inside the building with electrical surge, so, yeah. I don't know if there's a cost associated with it. I would hope not, but
Maybe a cost, but hopefully it's not our.
not our cost, right, yeah, there's a cost to it, yeah, you're
I'm sure
right.
there's a cost.
Right, right,
Not our cost.
yeah.
Then under old business, we have the second reading of policies. We had these policies last month to review, talk about if we wanted to make any changes, and now the second reading will approve them and put them into effect. So can I hear a motion to approve policy 0100?
I'll move to approve the second reading of policy 0100 definition.
Second.
Questions or discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carried. Policy 0121.
I would move to approve the second reading of policy 0121, authority.
Second.
Any questions or discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carried.
Motion to approve 0142.5 vacancies.
Second?
Questions or discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carried. Somebody just wants to, I won't.
Move to approve 01, or second reading of policy 0143, authority.
Second.
Questions or discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carried.
Make a motion to approve second reading of policy 0144.3, conflict of interest.
Second.
Questions or discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carried.
Move to approve the second reading of policy 0164.2, special meetings.
Second?
Questions or discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carried.
Are we allowed just to make a motion to approve all this in one batch?
No.
No.
I don't think we can do that in case there's discussion,
But
a discussion point. I think we've got to, I think we have to take them one by one.
Yes, and some districts read each one all the way through.
Move to approve second reading of 0167.6, email public records.
Second.
Questions or discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carried.
Move to approve the second reading of policy 0174.2, school performance report.
second.
Questions or discussion?
I had a question around publicizing the school performance report, Kyle. How do we do that?
Put it on our website.
Is that the only way we get it? Like, is that the only way we publicize? Is it as website
That's the only way I
only?
know of, yeah.
I was just curious in terms of people that don't have access to the internet.
Unless parent requests.
Just
Yeah.
curious. Okay.
Usually the principals, because it's an article, we don't reach out to them usually.
Any other questions or discussion on school performance report? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried.
Move to approve the second reading of policy 1130, conflict of interest.
Second.
Questions or discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried.
Motion to approve policy 1213, student supervision and welfare, second reading.
Second.
Questions or discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried.
Make a motion to approve the second reading of policy 1241, non-reemployment of the district administrator.
Second.
Questions or discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried.
Move to approve 1461, unrequested leaves of absence, fitness for duty.
Second.
Questions or discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried.
Move to approve 1619.02, privacy protections of fully insured group health plans.
Second.
Questions or discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried.
Move to approve the second reading, policy 1662, employee anti-harassment.
Second.
Questions or discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. About the policies, Sevastopol used to have its own homemade policy book. It was a binder about this thick, and they would read the policies, but they were not 2 and 3 pages long like some of these are. We couldn't possibly get through a whole meeting reading all of these policies. That's why I always tell people we've looked at them the month before. We know what we're doing. Then we have discussion and action on the Town of Sevastopol Town Park Agreement. Mr. Leakey, would you like to?
Sure, we have a 3-year agreement, it's $500 for the 1819, 1920, and 2021 school year. We didn't play ball games there this year, but there has been work done in the field, and I think the athletic committee did some discussion on it.
Well, I think this goes back to the understanding, I think what we just wanted to do is follow on some meetings so we're all on the same page, who's doing what we're paying for. And so I think that would be healthy, maybe that's be the next action, is get, I guess, that committee to meet with and bring Brooke along and probably Mark and whoever else he wants to have. So there's no confusion, right? Because some.
Mark, what we'd like is a joint meeting of our athletic committee and a couple from your.
We used to have a school board member come to all of our park meetings. They had like the liaison or whatever you want to call it between the two. Mike Kay, when he was on the school board, he always came to him. He was the representative from the school. But yeah, we can do that. The one thing I want to reemphasize here is this is not a bill. You know what I mean? You guys aren't paying us. You know what I'm saying? It's kind of a donation to the town. We don't actually send a bill.
Yeah, but
In the agreement, it's not like a.
It's a 3-year agreement.
Yeah, it's an agreement, yeah, but it's not like a bill where we're saying this is what you're getting for what you're paying for.
That's what we need the committee to
Yeah.
hammer out those details,
I don't
right?
think you can use public funds as a donation. That's the problem.
Yeah.
I think you have to be invoiced.
Right, so this is our invoice. The recommendation is we pay it and then we get together and work on this
Yeah.
the situation together. Because it is a 3-year agreement.
The key, we just want a common understanding, because from whatever side, there always seems to be some rumblings. And let's just stop that. We're in the same community, we're right next door, so let's figure it out. So if the rumbling's on our side, we'll clean it up. If it's on your side, we'll help clean it up. Let's just figure that out. So I think it's easy, but We're both public organizations, public dollars are involved. We should have a solid message to our taxpayer on how we're working together. And it's a great park, and we should be using it, but we also want to make sure safety of our kids are addressed. I don't think there's any concerns, because you've been working on them, and I don't even know how severe they were, because I'm not smart enough to understand them. And I think that's all we're trying to get to, so probably in the past it was awesome, maybe it dwindled for a while, and let's bring it back where it was. That's
So
what
your
was-
The major thing is that it is a safe environment for kids to play, and I think a lot of that has been addressed for the most part.
It's getting better. Mitch Anderson's been working there this spring, so my
So-
recommendation is, even though we didn't play any games there, pay it, and then let's get together and work on it together.
As a taxpayer though, of Sevastopol, am I not paying this tax?
Yes and no,
I'm not paying
to
it
quote
as
Mark.
as a town cost, so I'm paying it through my town tax.
Well,
And as
the town of Sevastopol residents would be paying twice, but we have other taxpayers paying into our organization here from other municipalities. And so it's one town's park, but we have kids from multiple communities coming here.
So if we have to pay, if we pay, let's say 2,000, just to keep the math easy, if we pay 2,000 and 80% of the students here are from the town of Sevastopol, why don't we end up then paying them 400? We'll pay the 20% for the 20% of the population that's doesn't reside here. I'm sorry, I'm paying it twice.
I agree with you, and I think that's why we need to have a meeting. And we need to have an understanding of agreement so that we can answer any taxpayer who asks that question. Maybe there used to be an understanding, but I brought the same thing about, it's a public park. Kids get to use it. So
That's why we gotta get together and iron it out.
well, but that's why we need to have a meeting and see how that cooperation comes together.
And it has to be an invoice. I mean, it really should be an invoice, because you can't, I'm not knowing.
But this is what we received 2 years ago, and it was a continuation from 13, 14, 15.
I agree with you, I don't think it would be, it's not a donation. It's not. It would have to
We're
be.
paying a bill.
Right, and we're paying a bill to allow our kids, because we need to provide a baseball field for our kids.
Right.
Right, or for, maybe they go, whatever they all go use it for, I don't even know yet. So we figure all that.
But this is kind of like the city of Sturgeon Bay sending a bill to the town of Sevastopol, because 20% of the people using their tennis courts are from Sevastopol, and we should pay for its upkeep. I mean, that's the same thing. This is, to me, is kind of ludicrous. It's a town park, this is a town school. They get it set up, and it's a baseball field, right?
And
That
Jerry,
means
this is
certain
a
things, a baseball
decade-old
field's gotta
problem,
be
so
safe,
we've got to
it's
work,
gotta
we're
have.
trying to get it cleaned up here, yes.
And I think there's other people with those opinions, we just have to have a solid message that we can all agree to, and, on all sides, and everyone's happy, and we do great.
I'm not blaming you for it, but I'm just saying,
I think
this
other
is
people have that
strange.
same comment, you're like, well, it's a Sevastopol town park,
I mean,
so.
it's kind of like the city, my kids' daughters played in the Sturgeon Bay League, and if you're not a city resident, you pay a fee to play. City residents don't pay the fee because they're taxed. I live in the town of Sturgeon Bay, I'm not a city resident, so
right, that's legitimate.
right, but I'm saying, I understand what you're saying, and 80% of kids here are Sevastopol residents.
And their parents have already paid taxes
And their
for it.
parents are being taxed, school-wise, town-wise, statewide.
It's not as simple. Yeah, and we don't have any student fees, sports fees, so.
So the recommendation is, the motion approves the payment for 2021, and that a memorandum of understanding will occur before the next school year.
We in good faith would like to have a joint committee meeting with the town of
Pay for
Sevastopol.
1920.
It is for 1920?
This is paying 1920.
Yeah, she said 2021.
Okay.
1920.
1920, the current school year, yeah.
Somebody want to make that motion?
I would make a motion to approve the $3,500 payment to the town of Sevastopol for the park agreement.
It's not.
With an understanding, we'll have a meeting going, I guess that's for this school year, but any future meetings.
we'll do our part to have a meeting, right? Like, you can't guarantee a meeting from both sides,
Correct.
right?
So this is just a motion for the 19-20 school year.
Is there a second to that? You want to repeat the motion, Carl?
Motion by Mr. Volkman with a second, has been seconded to approve payment to Sevastopol Township for 2019, 2020 town park.
Of 3,500.
Of
Of $3,500.
$3,500.
Is that what you're saying? Yeah. Good.
If there's no second, I guess it dies.
I would move that we uphold, that we hold back the payment.
We're assuming the motion.
We've got a motion on the
Give it,
table.
looking for a second.
It died.
With no second, it dies.
Right. I would move that we withhold the payment of the 2020 payment of $3,200 to the town of Sevastopol until a memorandum of agreement can be reached for
Second.
usage.
Is 3,200?
Is it 3,200?
3,200 was the old amount.
$3,500.
Was that's projected amount?
No,
That's cutting the.
no. When you're reading 3,200, that is from the 13-14, 14-15, 15-16 agreement. They increased it to 3,500.
I stand corrected.
And you can see it's from the town, so it's from them to us.
To hold back the payment of $3,500 until a memorandum of agreement is established between the town of Sevastopol and the school district of Sevastopol for use of the town park.
Is there a second on that?
Dave already seconded.
Second.
Dave, questions or discussion?
Is the 3,500, is that their total cost of maintaining them? Or is it cost them?
That's what the committee will find out when they meet with them.
And does it cost them, the town, more than that?
Well, it depends on the spring as well. If we have a wet spring, we don't play many games over there. If we do, but they do have some automatic upkeep of a ball diamond. There's some
I think
initial costs they have.
Some of the discussion for the agreement that I think is good, and I hopefully your team would agree, is let's get some agreement documented. And then also, let's look at a 5 and 10-year plan. And if maybe there's some improvement that needs to be done that's a little more expensive than 3,500, we could work together to plan for that. Maybe even do some fundraising, get the SEF involved, or a booster club, which probably is booster club, right? To do some of that. So, you know, that's what we would bring to the group is, hey, let's just not make it an ad hoc and every year we talk about this one thing. Let's actually make it legit and talk about, just like we're doing strategic planning at school, right? We want to start looking out, how are we doing this? And even quite frankly, because, you know, it'd be better to invest in that field than putting a field back here. We don't want to do that, right? So that's where we want to start talking about the investment, how do we work together? And then we'll understand that price breakout better, you know, and be able to understand what that's for. You know, because there's mowing the lawn and there's marking the lines and all that kind of stuff. Is it
There's
done in
game
time
day
for
prep, and
games?
then there's seasonal
Yeah,
prep, and
so-
then there's other users as well.
Because I'm sure there's a tribal knowledge group of people that know what that is, but we're a public school. Let's get it documented. They're a public entity also. That should be agreed to in writing. So there's.
But we already have an agreement with you guys. There's an agreement right there on the table. It's right there on the table, 3-year
Okay,
agreement.
Mark, it's not your time to talk now
Oh,
about it.
okay, I'm
And
sorry.
the other thing is, earlier you said it was a donation, it's not a donation, so.
Yeah, well, right.
I'm not against making the payment. I think we just have to, as Dave kind of reiterated, just sit down. Because, yeah, I mean, I know you have costs, the fertility program, the herbicide program is still $3,000 or so a year for the whole park, right? Something like that. So there's a lot of other costs that aren't aware of, so.
Want me to read
Any
it
other
again?
questions or discussion? Read it back, please.
Motion by Mr. Wyland, with second by Mr. Kakmarinsky, withhold payment of $3,500 to Sevastopol Township for use of town park until memorandum is agreed to by both district and township.
Any other questions or discussion?
Yeah, I would just want to make sure that the memorandum clearly outlines the responsibilities of each party, what the responsibilities of the town are, and what the responsibilities of the school district are. So there's no gray matter in between. Because I would really be interested to see what the town of Sevastopol views as their responsibilities of the park. So I would maybe make that as an amendment to the motion, that the memorandum of understanding has clearly demonstrates the responsibilities of both agreeing parties.
Well, two things, that was some of the discussion, I think that would be reasonable, but, you know, so if it's part of the amendment, that's up to you guys. Because I think, because right, that memorandum of understanding, or whatever we coin it, will have to come back to the school board, right, to agree to. So you'd have another take at it to make sure it's been done properly.
But I'm asking for this amendment, just make sure that's in there in the product that comes here, so we don't go back again.
Is an amendment made before or after a motion is passed?
You have to make the amendment because you vote on the amendment before you vote on the motion.
Okay.
That's my amendment. I make an amendment, what I just said, that both, the responsibilities for both parties are clearly outlined in a memo of understanding.
I'm not sure how to handle it. Is there someone that would like to second Jerry's amendment?
I can second that.
Questions or discussion on the amendment? Okay.
Or you vote on the amendment.
Did-
You vote on to accept the amendment
Yeah.
first, because then that changes that may or may not change the motion. So you have to,
So, there's no questions or discussion on the amendment? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried.
Now we vote on
So
the
back
motion.
to
not
Dick's
even with the
motion.
discussion, to the
So-
new amendment, to
So
the
back to
amended
Dick's
motion.
motion, which was to approve payment of the 1920 fee.
Do not pay payment.
Not make to approve payment after we have amendment of understanding, or not make payment, I'm not sure what it was.
To hold back.
Hold back payment. So how, discussion on that, adding that amendment.
And I think it's a good motion because
Dick's
you're not
motion.
gonna pay until you know what you're paying for.
And just for discussion, really, for your ears, we can make this quick, it doesn't have to be a 7-year process. I mean, I know like if the athletic committee, they're ready to meet soon. I mean, this shouldn't be moving mountains, it should be just some coordination, and if you guys are, if you can find the right people and have a few meetings, and wordsmithing might take the longest hopefully, but, you know, give it a go.
So, Carl, you want to read the motion and the amendment?
Let me finish writing the amendment. Jerry, would you say specific guidelines or specific?
The
Specific
responsibilities for each of the parties, being
Yep.
the town of Sevastopol and the school district of Sevastopol, are clearly written out in the memo of understanding.
It will be good to get this in an understanding, because this dates back to 2006 and 7, before, and then in 2008, the girls played in Jacksonport because they couldn't get the field the way they wanted.
Okay.
So,
So here's the amendment. Wait, do you want to do the motion first so then we know what we're amending? Right.
The motion with the amendment is what we're voting on
to
now.
read a motion first and then the amendment.
Motion by Mr. Weidman, second by Mr. Kaczmarski, to withhold payment of $3,500 to Sevastopol Township for use of town park until memorandum of understanding is agreed to by both district and township. With an amendment by Mr. Warwick, seconded by Mrs. Zellner Ehlers, that memorandum of understanding will include specific responsibilities of both parties of memorandum.
Questions or discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The motion carried. So you guys will work to get a meeting with them quickly and get this back to us as soon as possible.
And we would have, I think Brooke will help us with that, I think, right? Yeah.
It should be the athletic committee and
Yep.
work with that. If you need me there too as well, that's fine. I don't think we have to make it a huge group, but the two of you are on the athletic committee, so that's where we start.
Now, with that, let me, because this is not gonna happen before the end of the fiscal year, obviously. You probably, once we do make the payment for 1920 school year, will be in the 2021 fiscal year, because we will already have gone past that. Understanding there will be 2 payments in 2021.
It just ruined our whole preliminary.
Oh, I know, it's just,
Yeah, no, we'll get there. It'll work out. It'll work out.
Yes, it will.
Okay, then we have the varsity head coach job description with some changes for possible approval tonight. Anybody want to discuss that, have questions about it? Otherwise, I'll take a motion to approve the varsity head coach job description.
The only comment is Keith, the athletic committee went through each one, we read everything. There were some recommendations by athletic director. Keith and I kind of chewed through them at the meeting. So we would recommend that they're pretty reasonable, but of course, if you have comments, carry on.
Concur with me.
Want to make a motion?
I make a motion to approve the varsity head coach job description as presented.
Second.
I think it's a really nice document. It really makes it clear to those people what their
I
responsibilities
think
are.
it'll be good to evaluate the coaches too, use that as a document to
Mhm.
accountability.
The one point that I'd like to point out is that last paragraph. If you hang on to their last paycheck,
Yeah.
all the equipment gets turned in, everything, that's key. And then we don't end up 25 years later having the mess we have with equipment and uniforms and such. Yeah.
It's accountability, I mean, it's.
Good. Any other questions or discussion on that job description? If not, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carried. Then this is just, what we have now is the finalized assignments and volunteerism for the committees and various positions, officer positions, and then committee assignments. So if there's any mistake there, let me know. Otherwise, that's the document we'll go with.
I just have a question. And it probably is gonna have to be under new business, because this is old business to approve the committee assignments. But based on the information that Sue shared tonight, as well as our conversation yesterday, would it be possible, I should ask you, Kyle, would it be possible to develop an equity and social justice task force / committee? And given Sue's experience on equity, I don't need to put you out there, Sue, but I would just really, I think it would be a pledge that we are going to do more if we developed a committee that really kept that issue on the forefront. And I just wondered if I would, because we don't have a committee, would we have to put that under new business for next month?
That's
Have that
good.
kind of conversation?
I think so.
I think it's a
Okay.
discussion
That's
the
good,
board
'cause
wants to
this is
have
a-
if we want to
We
have a
discussed an
committee.
hour, should we?
But,
No,
yes, I'm saying
that's fine,
it's-
because we're talking about committees, so
Okay.
but I think that has to be,
I'm just wondering, etiquette.
no, it's
Robert's
okay,
rules,
because
if
we're
I
talking
can
about, the
have the
topic is
conversation.
board committees and assignments. If we said tonight, we wanted a new committee, we could add it to this list now, because this isn't a final document. This is a discussion item right now,
Okay.
up for voting approval, so, yeah, if we want to
What
look
do
at.
people think about
Well,
that?
if I may have a comment, and I thank you for sending that, I read through that, and so I'll be very honest, and I don't know how this will go, but for people that have been in this business for 20-plus years, we don't know what the problems are. So when you read through that equity statement, I think our curriculum development teams, much of this stuff, if our team hasn't already been doing it, shame on you. I mean, so, but my point is, I think, because if you go to the social injustice, this is what I think is very challenging topic. I think a lot of people know what the problems are, but no one's willing to say the truth, you know? I'm sorry, and it's not whole, you know, well, how's your home life? Are your parents following you up? Are your parents coming to parent-teacher conferences? Or your parents have to work so much they can't support you? So are we gonna just give them more money? I mean, so here's enough money so then you can come to school. I mean, so this is the opinion that no one should ever say out loud, I guess, because since I was a child, there's been an inner city problem in Chicago. and no one's ever done anything. So I cannot believe people that are in that business or in education for a long time, you know what the kids' problems are, ask our staff. I think they're working on it. So my concern is, what we've been doing, and look at that review yesterday, right? Before you got here, Kyle, those numbers were not like that. Those numbers that are great, they were not great. So setting a culture in a school, which this group here has helped do a lot, you know, and we hopefully maintain it, they should also be challenging our staff, like we always talk about evaluations. So if it's the right thing to do for PR, sure, I would probably, you know, we'll get enough votes. But like that guidance, where are the resources and actions? I want an action plan. You know, because an equity statement is sweet, and I read it. Where's an action plan? We're going to do this. I'm gonna spend money on this. Just like our strategic plan. Whenever time we had a problem with the gym, we take an action, we spend money. So if we do this, well, do we have resources to put against it? What are we gonna discover? And then let's go after it. Because because I do care about this. And I've served with a lot of great people in the military. And this is a problem. But all this lip service everyone's doing isn't helping. And I don't want to be part of lip service. So if we're going to do something, there's going to be resources and we're going to follow through, which then goes to my question yesterday. What does a school district can you really do? In our walls, you betcha. If we got discipline issues, we should address them. If we have bullying, we've been talking about that for years. We should do something about it. So, and you know, so I'm all for improvement and stuff, but I'm just don't want our other committees address curriculum and discipline. The PBIS has been brought in, right? So
A couple of years ago, we had a presentation from our ELL department saying we're shorthanded. They had data that showed the numbers were increasing. We increased that department. 2 years ago, we developed a multicultural club. I'm sure the direction they're going to go now is going to be more in-depth, but it doesn't hurt to have a committee to support those efforts that we have done. We started an SAGA club, well, this time last year, I think it was.
Yeah.
The junior July, I don't know, it was summer.
oh, now right at the end of
It
school,
doesn't
they meet
matter, but
everybody.
we had the kids come and the potential advisors, and so we have been supportive of issues like that. It hasn't been that we haven't been, but it's at the forefront now. It doesn't hurt to have a task force committee focus on it, but it's not gonna be one and done, like getting a committee together to update the gym. Hey, great, you put in new bleachers, you paint it, you do the floor, you're not gonna have to revisit it for 12, 15 years. This is gonna be one that's gonna be ongoing forever.
And I don't want us to make problems where we don't have problems. I'm
Well,
not saying that there's not discrimination all over the place. I'm not saying there's not discrimination all over the place, but I think our staff recognizes where there might be discrimination in our school district.
Well,
And I have to agree with everybody's jumping up and, you know, making equity statements and creating scholarships in the name of George Floyd. It's all PR, it doesn't matter. It matters what we do at this level right here. How we,
And
what we're
so-
teaching our kids.
And it's a discussion, so I give you my passion and view of my whole life, and all the people I've worked with, served with, my kids' best friends have dealt with all that, not in this community, but in past communities. So, you know, if we do the committee, that's good, but let's try to actually do something.
I agree, I wouldn't want to be a part of something that didn't do
Right,
something.
and I think I've seen too much of that.
And if we're doing wonderful things, let's tell the world we're doing wonderful things.
And so that could be part of it too. Is it just the messaging? Maybe, I don't know.
But there's always room for improvement.
In every area, in every area.
Anything, yes.
And I don't think we have to say there's something wrong, Lisa. I
No.
think this can be a proactive, positive committee, not looking for things that are broken, but looking for ways to just sustain and maintain and keep a positive.
Enhance
Yeah.
what we're doing.
My comments come from that is, other places, right? You start something up like that and you don't make a change, it becomes a sore point.
Well, maybe the first part
That's the
of
thing,
it.
is how many government programs have been started to help people, which really hurt people? And you don't come back to say, wow, that was a bad idea. They just keep spending money on it. So my concern is, have we thought it through? What are we gonna do? How do we make it an ongoing committee? You know, and make it
Before we,
positive.
okay, before we could make a committee, I'd like to see an outline of what the committee would hope to accomplish, how they would address.
That would be the first step of
Yes,
the
the mission.
committee, because if you
Yeah.
don't have
Yeah.
a committee, there's no one to work on that. Who's gonna prepare that document if you don't have a committee to do that? That's the work of the committee.
First step.
And part of it's gonna be reviewing Sevastopol from, I don't know, 1924 to 2020. Okay, where have we been, what have we done? And then you always look for areas of improvement, but the committee has to do that work.
So
So
we-
to
so
say
are
that
we-
unless the committee of a whole here, the board's gonna say, okay, this is what the committee's gonna focus on, but I think it's better served, just like the athletic committee or the core planning team, all those other committees we have that are listed right, I'm on the wrong sheet now. And all these, I think that's where if you're gonna do it right.
Well,
You
I
know,
will agree
3 years
that
ago, we didn't have a lunch committee. We got a lunch committee now, so.
those action plans briefed yesterday, I thought were very thoughtful, good ideas. So I agree with you. Get the right group of people together to brainstorm, to find something credible and useful, and to help us to do something.
And the committee can bring it back to the board and say, here's what the committee's thinking of. If the board doesn't want it, fine.
But then, you know, the problem with that is if it comes back to the board and the board says no, then the board's gonna get accused from outside forces as being uncaring, da-da-da-da-da.
It's a hot topic.
Well,
And I agree,
think-
I agree with you. I think there are so many similarities between now and the sixties. It is, and it's a lot of, it's going down the same pathway, a lot of talk. There's gonna be no action. But over the evening after last night's meeting and today, I was thinking, there is something, you know, the best thing you can do for if you want to talk about social justice, you know, I can give you a whole bunch of encyclicals and a whole bunch of popes about social justice, but social justice is a really very complicated thing, and we always put it in terms of black and white. But I think what is a great opportunity here, and I'm new here, so I don't know what you've done in the past, but there's a significant Hispanic population in this community. So my question and challenge to us is, what have we done, what do we do to mainstream the Hispanic population into this community, into this school? I mean, here they are right here
Yes.
in our midst.
That's all a part of this,
I
Jerry.
know, but we always get down into, like today, they're gonna get rid of Aunt Jemima pancakes and Uncle Ben's rice and all this BS. Has nothing to do with the real issues.
But if you look at the WASB equity statement, it is not strictly racial. It is sexual orientation, national origin, all of those areas, gender, everything, including Hispanics, which you're referencing.
We have a gender imbalance here when it comes to our clubs and organizations. The girls dominate, the boys sit back, and I don't know why. It bothers the daylights out of me.
That was an all boys school, so that never happened.
Well, you check out our class officers, and
Oh,
you
I'll tell
check
you, I've
out.
just noticed I forget where I see it on TV. Where do I see this? Where there's an ad, one of the TV stations, and they go through the top 10 graduates, coming out of these different high schools. I'm looking like there's 8 girls and 2 guys,
Yeah?
time after time after time. So it's all, and the
Some
best
of
method
my-
of all is,
Sorry to.
Go ahead.
Jess.
Go ahead.
Some of the concern is, me personally, I believe we've been trying to focus on all our kids. I mean, even, we've talked about the state law that all kids are treated equally. I mean, we have talked about that. We try to do that. We try to follow through with that. We talked about gender, even building a new school, we talked about gender neutral bathrooms. I mean, we've been having these discussions. And quite frankly, it's an election year, it's a highly political issue, and I'm concerned that with good intent, it is gonna be something that we may not want to deal with, because I would argue that, giving everyone a voice, we've always been saying that, we have programs already, like, and the principals could probably explain it better, where we're reaching out to families and kids and trying to help them. They got parent cafes now, where the parents can come in. So I would be willing to argue to people, even with those equity statements, this school is already doing a reasonable, Is there room for improvement everywhere, right? There's room for improvement in all our evaluations and our performance and our kids and our sports teams, everywhere. So I'm cautious about, it's, 3 years from now, it won't be election year, is it that big? I still believe it is, because like I said, from when I was a kid, you hearing those stories in Chicago. I was out in Compton after the Compton fires. What have they done out there? So that's what my caution is. It's the issue blowing in the political year of an election year, which we know the community is very challenging. And I want to be very cautious on how we manage our public school, which shouldn't be politically charged, right? And we want to take care of our kids fairly. So if we want to survey parents, maybe we do that. We want to start this up because remember, I'm just one voice, one vote. Everyone's on board, I'm good. I'm just saying, I've been think this through, and we've been thinking this through since I've been on board and you have been too. So that's my only, okay, I'll try to let you guys take her.
It has risen to the top recently in around the United States and the world, and we probably haven't spoken up about what we've done in past efforts. And I would think that'd be the first thing the committee would look at and then say, okay, is there reason to still yet improve more? And our demographics are different than other places.
Does someone want to what would you propose to call that committee, Cindy? Equity Task Force?
Sure.
Does someone want to make a motion to establish an equity task force?
I would say you're gonna add it to the list of committees here, right?
Yeah, to establish it and add it to the list of active committees.
I would move to do that.
Is there a second?
I'll second it.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
We have discussion?
Yes, discussion.
Before you say you're gonna do whatever, I think the motion should be to authorize the formation of a charter for that committee, so then the board knows what the committee's about, and what its goals are, what's it's doing, as opposed to saying, we're doing the same thing that we just complained about, So I would say if you want, I don't know if I wanted to say, well, Coeur d'Alene, we're gonna have this committee. I'd say it's fine for me to go for those board members who are interested in it, put together the charter, the purpose, what this is gonna do and all that stuff. Then that comes back here, and then we'll say, do we wanna have this committee?
I would say with any,
Okay, well, I would say that the job of the committee would be to do just that. To meet and to develop a mission statement or whatever, and then have the board approve it so that they can go forward with it. If you have people that are willing to participate and establish
If that's
that.
the understanding of the group, then it's fine.
Yeah.
And we review committees every year, and if it's gangbusters, we'll get more support of it.
I mean, with any committee, I guess, even, I started up the athletic committee just recently.
Yeah.
I mean, I consider Dave and I's role is to support the athletic director.
Yeah.
And certainly
She does
not
a lot
telling
of
her to
work.
do her job because she's got a handle on it. And I would think with this committee, I think that I don't know if it's the school board's job to do that. I think that is the administration team's job to do the curriculum, they make those decisions. It's not our job to do that.
Kind of what you heard last night from the first presenter.
Right, we're not here to micromanage what the school is doing to make sure we're ethnically, that's not our job. Our job is to set policy. But what I would say is that if there has to be a committee with school board representation, I don't want to tell the administrative team what they need to do that. We would be more of a, if you need something from the board, whatever, we can help, but, I don't think that's our job to, it's just my personal opinion, I don't think it's our job to do that as a school board.
It might be I could support Jerry's proposal, but it might be something that the administrative team should consider. Do we need
Well, that's what my
Do we need a
question.
task
I mean,
force?
I was gonna ask Kyle, and I know you're meeting with the superintendents for lots of reasons, maybe mainly COVID, but has this come up because this is a major issue right now? Are all the other schools doing it? And more importantly, am I reading your comments such that you feel this should be done? Because, you know, your input always matters.
Some schools are and some aren't. This is a political issue. I don't like schools getting involved in politics, but it's also an equity issue, so I prefer having a committee formed. If you'd like them to come up with their first charter mission and bring it back, that's fine, but that takes a committee to come up with that. So if you wanna make another amendment, Jerry, where the first option of the committee is to come up with a charter, that's fine, but we've gotta move forward on this. We need some more hands on deck on this. We're trying to get ready for August 24th. But
Do you think the equity factors into the August 24th plans?
No, I'm just saying that I know
And
the
I'm-
admin
I'm-
team
that's the other thing I'm saying.
I'm just saying the admin team right now is knee
They're
deep
busy.
in trying to get ready for the 24th, and what those plans are coming out. This is gonna be ongoing and forever. We've had committees that we've dropped, we've added committees, and I think it's time to add this committee and review where we are and keep moving forward. No.
And with the emphasis now on virtual teaching, at least for the time being, I mean, there you have an equity within our district. Not that we have control over that, but, you know, it's one thing to recognize that for putting lessons on virtually, if a student does not have access to broadband, they are being denied yeah. So, I mean,
Some of that is geographical, some of that's
Yeah.
socio-economic, exactly.
And some of it is special education, because some of our special education students cannot operate virtually.
Correct, and some of our ELL students cannot.
Yes,
That's another hurdle or obstacle that they have, right?
it's another equity issue.
but it's probably not something that is going to be permanently, I mean, this may be a temporary
We
situation.
hope.
I hope we get our kids back in school sooner than later.
Carl, would you read the motion?
First thing, what is the name of the committee again?
Equity Task Committee is what I have.
I have a motion by Mrs. Today with a second by Mrs. El Nailers to establish Equity Task Committee.
So this is a committee of the board.
It's a committee, it's a board committee, correct. But just like the athletic committee serves with the athletic director, the food committee serves with the food director.
Who's the equity person in the school?
I would recommend the guidance counselors to start there.
And Melissa Margraf.
Ms. Margraf is pupil services, so those are three wise choices.
And I think just like some of our other committees have community members, Karen Brower is on the communication committee, we need community members.
Mr. Ward, did you want to make an amendment to that amendment that you spoke of to the motion?
No, I'll uphold it since they're gonna come back with that eventually, right? Well, there's no.
Yeah, we would approve the charter, wouldn't we?
Whenever a
Yeah,
committee meets, we put it on the agenda under committee reports, and then all the committee meetings that happened in the last month are reported back to the whole board. So when the Equity Task Committee has a meeting, it'll be listed under committee reports, and then they'll report back to the group. If it becomes something that needs action, it becomes a discussion action item, just like the athletic committee developed some ideas with the athletic director, and the athletic director said, hey, can I get this on the agenda? And we talked about it, and it got on the agenda.
Okay.
Same thing would happen with,
So, since this
Anything
is
else?
such a highly charged, politically charged type, could become that, then I would throw in the amendment that the first act of this committee, if it's approved, is to develop a charter. It's, you know, what they're gonna do, their charter and comes back to the board for approval.
Did you already vote on this?
no.
I
No,
thought you already voted on it. Okay.
no.
I can understand Carl's way out, right?
So, is there a second to Mr. Warwick's amendment?
Second.
Questions or discussion?
And now we're discussing the amendment.
The amendment. That the committee create a charter and bring it back to the board for approval.
And the reason I'm doing this amendment is because this is such an important issue. And if it's gonna do anything, we need to really know what's going on and buy into that. Just not say we've got to make a committee and go underway.
If there are no questions or discussion on Mr. Warwick's amendment, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carried. Then we move back to the original motion, which was to create the equity task committee.
With the amendment.
Hmm?
With the amendment.
With the amendment.
Because the amendment is now part of the motion.
Any questions or discussion on the motion and amendment? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carried. Okay. Next up, we have WIAA membership renewal.
No cost involved.
I move we approve the WIA renewal for this year.
Second?
Questions or discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carried. Then we have policies. I think these are first readings
Yep.
Yep.
of the policies. Okay, so if someone wants to begin by making that first motion, 2210, we'll just keep moving.
I move to approve the first reading of policy 2210, curriculum development.
Second.
Questions or discussion?
This is the second reading.
No, these are first readings.
No, this is first, that's a typo on here.
Sorry.
It's new business, it's a first reading.
Questions or discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carried.
Make a motion to approve the first reading of policy 2260, non-discrimination and access to equal education opportunity.
Second?
Questions or discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carried.
Move to approve 226001, first reading. 504 ADA prohibition against discrimination based on disability.
Second.
Questions or discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carried.
Make a motion to approve the first reading of policy 2261, Title I services replacement policy.
Second?
Questions or discussion?
Just one, and most people are aware of what's going on with the Secretary of Education and her involvement in Title I. No? Yeah. So I mean, it's just something to keep, because she wants to extend it to all private schools as well as public schools. So, you know, down the road, we may be, we don't, right now, we're not required to offer it to the local schools.
Zion lives in district, and if they have free and reduced lunch kids, but right now they don't do a free and reduced lunch program, so.
But I mean, Title I reading, you do that now? What do you do? So you bring the students into this?
No, we get we deliver the supplies to their teachers and do trainings for them. The kids don't come here.
Oh, that way?
No.
Okay. You're not doing it just for Zion?
They're the only ones that are
They're the
within our
only-
district.
in our
But,
district.
but if students enroll out of this district, let's say they go to Corpus Christi,
And Sturgeon Bay
Then
takes
Sturgeon Bay
care of
does.
that
Then
because that's
Sturgeon
within
Bay.
their boundaries, right?
even though they're a resident resident.
Right, it goes by, the private schools go by the boundaries. That's interesting too, because we still have to transport them there. But,
It goes by what district that school is in.
for the
Not by the
education
resident,
part,
not by the
Not by the
resident.
resident of the kids, it's
Okay.
where that school
the
is.
school
at.
resides, but not the transportation part. Because we go to St. Peter and St. John Bosco with our
So it
buses.
wouldn't impact our district very much then?
No, they have 17 students over there.
Yeah,
No.
okay.
Any other questions or discussion? All in favor say aye.
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 Opposed, motion carried.
Move to approve policy 226101, first reading. Parent and family member participation in Title I programs.
Second.
Questions or discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carried.
Move to approve the first reading policy 2700.01, school performance report.
Second.
Questions or discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carried.
On this next one, put 31,
Is there two of them
312201 and
together?
412201 together.
Move to approve the first reading of policies 312201 and 412201, drug-free workplace.
Second.
Questions or discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carried.
Move to approve first reading policy 3125, Wisconsin Quality Educator Initiative.
Second.
Questions or discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carried.
Make a motion to approve first reading of policy 3161 and 4161, fitness for duty.
Second.
Questions or discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carried.
Move to approve the first reading of policies 3213 and 4213, student supervision and welfare.
Second.
Questions or discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carried. And then we have the first reading of a new policy, item C.
Move to approve policy 2370, educational options provided by the district.
Second.
Questions or discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carried. We did two new policies tonight on non-discrimination. Our policy book is probably full of stuff for the committee to look at.
And those we worked on with Neola 3 months ago.
Mhm.
Yeah, that wasn't something recent, because Bob hasn't been around for quite a couple months. It was
Yeah.
remote.
So there
Yeah.
may be new, based on all of this, there may be new policies on discrimination or non-discrimination. Then we move to the preliminary budget report.
Okay, preliminary budget report for 2021. Your first page is page 25. We have all the revenues together and your total expenses. Fund 10 is our general fund. It's at $10,291,801. Fund 27, well, you can, I'm not gonna read them all. But Fund 27 is special education. Fund 38 is our energy efficiency. Fund 39 is our tax levy for the building project for this year. Fund 46 is the 10-year maintenance plan. The Fund 49 is the actual building project. And Fund 50 is food service, while Fund 80 is community service, which has to be an activity that is available for all community members, not just K-12 students. So if you turn the page, you can go from page 25 to page 1. You have Fund 10 revenues, property tax, just a little over $8 million. We did a 0 per pupil increase, and we assumed that our enrollment's gonna be steady. The difficulty when you do the revenue limit worksheet is if you estimate you're gonna have more students and you don't, then you don't get that money. If you estimate too low, there's the declining enrollment exemption. So you gotta be careful in that, so you're best off staying steady, and if you go up or down, either the declining enrollment exemption will lift you up, or the additional students will lift you up, so you've gotta be careful in those areas.
Sounds like Medicare.
It's a little, it's an art, I guess.
Yes.
Interest on investments, we are estimating that we'll have $60,000 there. This year, we're at $55,000 with 1 month to go. We don't know what interest rates will be for next year, but that's what we're looking at. And the open enrollment receipts, we conservatively are putting in an estimate of $1 million in that area. It's gonna be a little over $1 million this year, but we wanna be conservative. That's about all I wanna highlight on revenues. Carl, is there anything else you'd highlight in revenues?
The only thing, we put in per pupil aid at 350,000. Everything that we're hearing from legislatures saying that they're not going to be really doing anything with the budget as far as the shortfall in that this year. If they were to do it, that's probably where they're gonna hit you, is your per pupil aid, because they can't do anything with your revenue limit worksheet, because that already been approved by the time, and they said they're not gonna do anything until after the election. So they can't do anything with your revenue limit worksheet, because that's already been set, approved, done. But where they can get you in is your aids and stuff like that.
And they probably won't do anything before elections, and so this year will probably be a pretty good year. The following year, you're gonna see the different aids, the arguing between the legislators, because each one's gonna look at their constituents and say, okay, transportation aid hurts my district or helps my district, so I'm gonna vote one way or the other on that. Sparsity aid and the per pupil aid, that's the one that I think they're all gonna go after, because that's pretty equal playing field for all. And they do have to do something with the state budget in the next cycle to make up for the shortcoming. But I think that's a good number for 2021.
Right, I think we're okay for this year.
21, 22.
Right.
I would, yeah. So then we move down to Fund 10 expenses. The first line is the permanent full-time, that's our 4K teachers. And you just follow that through with their aides, retirement, FICA, life insurance, and then if you flip to page 2, you'll see there's their dental, health, and long-term disability. It's all the same until you get to 10E200 110. That number is $727,000. That is our 5K through 5th grade staff. And then you see some larger numbers right after it. That's your 5K through 5th grade. Music gets broken out of there, physical education, guidance, your principal, their secretary, and substitutes. And then you'll see the same, after you go permanent full-time, you'll see retirement, FICA, life insurance, dental, vision. It rotates all the way through until you are on page 4. And then you are in the 300s. And that's your middle school. So your middle school staff, $501,000. And then it breaks down arts separate, music, ag, business ed, FACE, tech ed, health, FIED, guidance, principal, secretary, part of Mrs. Anschutz' salaries in there, and substitutes. So Carl has to break out those people that are K-12 into elementary, middle school, high school for accounting purposes. That's a real pain in the tail end for him. But
Thank you.
that's his job, so it's.
Well, it all deals with school level reporting, which is a new thing started, I want to say 3 years ago, where the federal government wants to know what you're spending in each school. For us, we're our K-12 school in one building, but they still want to know pre-K, elementary, middle school, high school, and district. So you have to break all of that out, tell them what you're spending in each, and then there's a report I have to do with the budget and at the end of the year.
Yeah, so it's 3 schools within one and then the district.
Right.
So it's interesting. So then you have retirement, you roll through page 5 and 6, you see exactly the same breakdown for all different areas. And then on page 7, when we get to the 400s, that's your high school, the first number is your high school core staff, and then it's art, music, agriculture, business ed, FACE, tech ed, health, FIED, guidance, principal, secretary, part of Ms. Anschutz, and then substitute teachers. And then you roll through the same exact thing with retirement and FICA and all until you get to, on page 11, on the very bottom of page 11, you'll see one that's a little bit different. It is, the last 3 digits are 824. That's your ELL program. So that's what that's.
And the reason we put them in district 800, that 10E 800, 800 stands for district. Reason why I put them all in districts is because I don't know, ELL, they work in all, to the whole district. And they change whether they have, how many kids they have in elementary, and it's a fluid kind of for them because some go in, some go out, so I just lump them into district.
And it fluctuates two different ways there. Not only the age of the students, but students in ELL are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 levels. So the level they're at is how much more, work or less work time that they need. So that's a double, it's hard to judge what grade levels the kids will be at and who's a 1, who's a 2, 3, 4, and 5. And the hope is that they graduate out of the program, like a speech student. So it's best if he just puts it all in one spot. The number right below the 107,000 is athletic director. And if you move then to page 12, you have the same thing. Next one is GT, that's a K-12. And then the next one, a couple are library aides, and then superintendent, because then you're moving in the district more. And superintendent, half of the district secretary, director of maintenance is there. The second half of the district secretary, because she's in 2 areas, and then that's what Carl also does, because Jean's job description is secretary, but she also does some bookkeeping work as well. So she's split twice. Director of maintenance, IT, and then the Board of Education, and then we move into transportation, the $48,359, that's part of Rock and Dan's salary as the director. They're in 3 locations. They're in maintenance, transportation, and part in special education. So their salary, Carl's got split all 3 ways. And then the $155,000, that's for all the transportation for regular education, driving, your daily education. The next line would be co-curriculars, and then field trips is after that. And again, then you'll see an 824, and that is your ELL. And then you roll through our retirement, FICA, life insurance, dental, vision. Until you end up on page 14, personal services. Partially down in the 310s, 162, the 91,000, that's coaches, advisors, club advisors, all those lumped together. At the bottom of the page, you'll see 62,500 for district IT, and that is the budget for E-rate, our services, the support we get from Heartland, outside sources. When you go to the top of page 15, you'll see district IT again, and that's 90,000. That's the rental that we're in year 2 of a 5-year plan?
The lease for our server equipment.
Yes, is that year 2 of 5 maybe? It's a multi-year lease.
Yeah.
This
that
would be
was-
year 3, I think.
Year
that was
3?
before my time.
Yeah, I think this is
All right, well,
the
it's
3rd
before your
year.
time, then this year 3 then, okay.
So that's a dedicated cable, fiber cable?
Yeah,
What is the rent?
It's for our servers. We had outdated switches and server equipment, so we did a total refresh. And we got the equipment on a lease, so we've just been paying it off
Oh, okay.
over 5 years.
Where does the monthly charge, I mean, we used to be paying cable, who's cable provider?
WisNet?
Charter? No. Spectrum? Charter.
Yeah, we have WISCNet, the E-rate that comes out of a thing that Cal said before helps towards that, but that's in the lower part of the budget.
But now, you know, the district installed a dedicated to be part of the countywide fiber
Or
network.
the dark cable,
Yep.
The
I
dark
think they call
fiber.
it.
Yeah,
Who are we paying for access to that?
WisNet.
WISCNet, yeah.
WisNet?
Yep.
Oh, okay. So we're back, way back.
Yeah.
WisNet was the first initial start.
Right.
Yeah,
Okay.
they've been phenomenal.
That's as long as I've been here. it's
So
always been
we've
WisNet.
dropped Charter, no longer anything.
Right.
Well, because that dark fiber brought in such data we don't need, right? That's the,
Well,
Right,
we're
yeah.
on the countywide network now.
Well, that's what WISNet is, right?
Right.
Yeah. So the countywide network that we pay the fee for is called WISNet, I guess.
It used to be what we used in our homes for our dial-up was WISNet.
Right.
Yeah, I had that in elementary school.
But actually, they should have kept WISNet because.
But we
it
don't,
was-
and the town does not have any connection to our cable.
Not that I believe so.
All right.
Yeah, I think you asked that yesterday, we were outside.
Yes, because I went outside, I saw the locator going across the road to the town hall. And I thought, oh wow, we hooked up to, because at one time there was talk about the town cooperating on the expense of the of our own dedicated fiber. But as far as I know, they're still on charter yet. So there's something going across that road to the town hall.
It must be how charter goes from one to the other. I
Well,
don't-
or it's where the fiber comes in.
Yeah, I don't-
Fiber came up the highway probably.
Do they,
Right.
The fiber came up.
Came up from north, yeah,
Fiber did?
yeah.
Okay.
Came across and north, I mean, and south, yeah. Anyhow,
I don't know which way the line runs. Okay, so then that's the 90,000 there. The other two lines I'd like to highlight on page 15. Maintenance services, 520,000, that's for site development, so that's all of Rock's projects and whatnot. And 147 is building, so those are his two areas, just like we have 146. This is what he's planning. He has a few roofs he's got on the agenda. I should have a couple more ideas what he has. With roofs, 10-year maintenance plan, what else do we have on there?
well, isn't that the door, the door sit?
There's, it's windows in the 1965 section of the building, that's that part of the building, because those are old. And
Yeah, I don't
it
know.
was windows, it was two roofs, and then tying we're responsible for the 1965 part of the roof that ties into the new addition, we have to pay. So it was due anyways, and they're gonna come over about a third, but we gotta finish the other 2/3 on our budget. So he has that built in there. And then if you go down towards the bottom, you'll see $800,000 for an interpay service, $800,000, that's the open enrollment out payment we make. And we estimated that number a little high, hoping that it's expensive, it'll come in lower than that. And the one right below it, the payment to intermediate, $10,500, that's snow removal, which we pay the county to do. Well, that's the easiest way we don't have the equipment to move
we
it.
had a private, one time anyway. You had, who'd you have?
I
Was
don't
it
know.
was it
Nice.
portable tree service?
Yeah, nice.
Well, he does
He does small.
he does the spots where the county can't get to,
Oh.
right, he's gonna do with his little truck, right, but he can't move this big parking lot out here like the county can,
Yeah.
yeah. And that'll be interesting this year because I don't know where all the snow's gonna go, we guess we won't have any.
Pencil that in, would you?
Pray for a drought.
Okay,
Winter
yeah.
drought, yay.
That's, and I guess there's nothing else I'd like to point out on those items. Until you go to page 18, you'll see the expenses are at $9.9 million. And then we move on to Fund 27. We have 5 sources of income for Fund 27. Fund 27 being special education cannot end up in the red ever. So the first source of their revenue is Fund 10, and we're expecting to transfer in $949,663, which is very similar to this year.
If
And
you
that
go-
balances out that,
If you go back to page 17 and above the middle of the
17.
page, it says payment to Fund 27, which it's the same as operating transfers in, so that's where that expense goes. Of $900,000 for Fund
Can I ask
27.
you a question?
Yeah.
I've never seen anything this complicated. What do you get on a monthly basis on your desk? Don't you have something, whether this is all condensed into expenses and revenue and, so you got the preschool operation, you got the,
That's what he
you
gets
asked
every
for
month.
it.
you get some of this, you don't,
You get the condensed
You
version.
get the condensed version,
This is
we
the
get
condensed
the
version.
long version.
No,
No, this is the
Thank you,
one
Jesus, okay?
No, you get the condensed,
You
we
get the
do the
condensed
long version.
that's your condensed
Well,
version.
Well, this is just a check.
So that's a check, but there's,
But there's.
in your
In
report,
your report, you got the
You
expenses.
get a number operating statement like most businesses. Income, then underneath you got expenses.
The state does, I was you, the state does not allow the school to do accounting like a normal person or business would.
You're not under FASB, don't you have to do, do you have to do anything like FASB?
For what?
FASB?
FASB,
FASB,
so-
That's the
no.
national accounting thing, I mean,
No.
TC's gotta do that now, I mean, they
What's the,
they gotta depreciate
we have
stuff.
Wilfer codes, we have to use.
well, these are all the Wolfer codes, but yes, we are under GASB.
GASB, I'm sorry, not
Oh,
GASB.
Yeah, we're
GASB.
under GASB, yes.
Yes,
General accounting standards, blah, blah, blah.
right, and we have to do Wilford as well, so.
Right.
Yes.
See, I don't understand here, like, you've got like dental insurance, are these individual people, or is this just?
These are
You got
individual.
one for 1,600, and then you got another one right underneath it for 3,300.
These are
What
all-
page are you on?
I don't have page numbers, so.
Oh, you didn't get,
Yeah, you got
Well-
page numbers on the bottom.
No.
It should be on the bottom.
well, he's looking at the one
No,
he
we
had
don't
from
have
last.
page
that's-
numbers.
Sure,
The
you
one that I
Oh,
gave
not the
you.
one- okay.
On the one in the corner of your desk, you do have page numbers. See, Carl, I worked on this preliminary budget even more today, because it's enjoyable.
Well, just to pile on to this discussion, I've always was puzzled that, I don't know what software tool you use and stuff.
Right now,
Is
it's
it-
Skyward.
Skyward, is there a way to like do an executive summary, like, I don't need to see the by student, by person
Yeah.
breakout, but what's our overall health insurance budget? You have summarized at some point through our discussions over the years what that is, and I just didn't know if there was an easy way to make a report, so you just print, so then you'd see expenses, balance.
So you want to see all salaries together, all health, all
I don't think-
long-term disability, you want to
Yeah,
see
you
that?
got a salary line, that's everybody's salaries. and then you
Okay, well,
got
it has to
actual
be-
Budget.
Okay, but Carl's got to break her out by schools and district, he can't, I mean, he guess.
Well, we're asking the
Yeah,
question,
you're
we're not
great.
mandating.
I don't know.
We're
I don't- you
asking-
tell me.
I'd have to go back to Skyward and see if they could create a
Yeah.
report for me. I am not gonna go in and create it.
No,
No,
I mean, I can
but-
see one
we're not
for
asking-
preschool.
No, I
can
understand
see
that.
one for grade school, I can see one for high school, I
Yeah.
can see one for administration.
Mhm.
Yeah, so, but where all this stuff rolls up, I mean, like, you know, no wonder education's all screwed up if the state can't even get you a typical type of report to read to know whether or not you're making money, losing money, going down the
That's why
tubes.
Carl gets paid the big bucks and I check his.
Well, and I think that.
And I'm not trying to get you out of a job.
No,
Oh,
Terry, I understand what you're saying. I do believe in Skyward we can create a report like that. I would go back to them and say, this is what we want. Because all of this, I mean, everything that's in here came out of the Skyward, just downloaded into a
Spreadsheet or something.
spreadsheet. And then I went through and kind of broke it down and condensed it. I mean, originally, this was 25 pages and I condensed this down.
Maybe
I told
that's,
them any line they have
I
a
would
zero
have
in
to
it,
believe
get rid of it.
Skyward and all these software tools, some other school has asked, so.
Oh, I'm sure they have.
Just,
Yeah.
because, I mean, because
And they
really, even you don't want us, we don't want us evaluating the health insurance on an individual. Like, that was our briefing yesterday, we shouldn't be
Right.
doing
I mean,
that.
I'm coming from a $120 million operation, and the report to the board was on an 8.5 look by 11 sheet of paper. You
Okay.
understand that, right?
Yeah, exactly.
We're old school, okay.
It's different.
I mean, I guess.
No,
I-
it's-
I
Well,
could
it's
just-
not. The question is, does the software tool provide a report?
Well,
We're not asking for 17 hours of work.
No.
What I'm asking in the software, you hit this button,
And all
and it
condenses
shoots
down.
out a
We
report
just
that
became a
looks just like
Skyward
that.
customer last
That-
year.
maybe that's the
and
question.
you
Can we
didn't
ask
see
them?
it, but
Yeah.
every report I've ever seen, my last district had Skyward, and we always had it like this. Ours was this way, not that way, but it didn't matter, yeah. it does.
Tell you what, Jerry, tell me what you want, and I will go, send me an email, tell me what you want, and I will go back to
I don't wanna make
one of
more-
you.
And you're not making more work.
No, you're not making, I'm just gonna go back to Skyward and say, create this report for me, and make it easy for me to get to, and they will do it. That's what we're
We
paying
pay
them
tech support,
$8,000 a
that's
year
part of
to
our
do.
job.
That's
Yeah,
their
part
job
of-
to code
That's
the
their job.
report and.
Right.
And I would
That's
ask,
what we're paying $8,000 a year for their support.
enter with, do you have a report created already that you could just attach to my software? I
Well,
would be
it-
surprised if they do not have that.
They may, They may.
We just haven't asked because we
Right.
just,
Well, but this
and
is,
Skyward's new, so we were just happy to get this report.
this is pretty normal.
Really?
I feel, well, this is my 10th preliminary budget, yeah, this is what I know, this is, yeah, this is okay.
Well, I'm gonna ask, what comes on, what does the board get on a monthly basis? I'm sorry to.
No, it's okay.
It's in your
okay,
It's in the
good.
packet.
It's in the packet.
It's
yeah.
in
But
your
it's like
packet,
this.
No,
No, it's not
no,
quite that.
what you got in there?
Um,
on the computer.
Jerry, let's see.
In the board packet that Jean sent, there are expenses and
Okay. But still, even this
expenditures
one,
and revenues.
I've never seen budgets done by each employee.
What's your consent agenda?
There's a some,
What was approved on consent?
In a very small district, you know exactly who's on each line. Yeah, my last district, we had 25
paid her
teachers, I
that
can
much?
tell you
Okay.
exactly where it was. But that's all public information
Yeah.
anyway, so it doesn't matter.
But in WTC, we don't get anything like this either. I mean, it's very, one page. So it must be on some,
Well, Carl can see, send Carl what you want, he'll see if he can get
Well,
it,
you
and
know
then we
what?
can look at it and see.
I kinda know what you.
a roll-up of all this stuff.
Yeah, you want-
So but do you want it broken down by school, or do you want it as district as a whole?
No, I think it'd be, well, I think from the board's point of view, we view things as the pre-K in the grade school, in the high school, and administrative, the district office.
In middle school.
Yeah, in middle school. But those would be,
And that's kind of what I see here. That's why I flashed through the pages pretty quick. When it's health insurance, boom, boom, boom.
But it's not like total, I mean.
I know, you want it-
It's $9 million, but it's, you know what I mean, like it'd be nice.
yeah, you got like 9 million hidden between $1.43 and 10,016.
You know what I'm saying, it's all condensed, I mean, it looks normal to you, but for like
Sure.
a guy that does balance sheets for his business, it's not.
This is back in that, Tony Keith.
Right, because you want another column to explain.
No.
No, I know, but that's what you're saying, right?
Well,
Kinda,
Kind of,
yeah.
it's all good.
It's okay. Carl, we know what you're
You
gonna
just ask
ask.
what they do.
We know what we're asking.
Business-friendly format.
He'll ask it.
I
He'll
apologize.
look at it.
That's okay.
Huh?
I can show you something just to think about.
Sure.
Not the guy that showed it.
All right, well, in Fund 27, it also gets broken down by early childhood, elementary, middle school, high school, and then the the students who stay until they're age 21 program.
When does the revenue for 27 come in? When does the state, because they're always a year behind, right?
So, yeah, well, they work on, yeah, they're a year behind. We get revenue each year, but they're using numbers from 2 years ago
2 years.
to get the payments that we're getting for this year,
Oh. When does that usually come in?
all through the year.
Oh.
A lot of it, I mean, I've got a lot of it that I have to, that will be in at the end of June. A lot of it comes at the end of the year, but some of it comes in throughout the year.
The government's notorious for giving you money after July 1 that you count for June 30th or earlier.
Right.
Yeah, that's why, that's hard, the hard concept about the fund balance. People say, oh, on June 30th, you said your fund balance is this. All right, let's go to the bank and look at that money, and it's not there because we still got checks coming in July and August, but we had to pay our bills, and November is the worst month for a school district financially because you're not getting your property taxes till after, and your expenses, you got to keep paying as you go.
Right.
Yeah, and we're very fortunate that we have a nice fund balance, so we never short-term borrow. Districts that short-term borrow,
Not
that's like having a credit card and only paying off the minimum all the time. That's
Right.
bad. That's really
That
bad.
used to be a common policy, the short-term borrow.
It still is some places.
Oh, yeah.
But when-
PC.
there
It
were,
was here.
Oh, here.
there were times here when we would make money on our short term, when the interest rates were higher. I remember Cindy telling us, we made this much this month.
We had to carry us over from when we received the property taxes in February, right? Until you receive them again in,
Well, that's more common with most schools, I think, right?
yeah.
We're
But
lucky
I
to
mean,
be in an extended
and that's the advantage
situation.
of having a fund balance,
Right.
favorable fund balance, is that it carries you between those two payment periods. Yeah.
Right.
And that's what our short term borrowing was. Because our fund balance grew to the point where we don't have to
Every
do
board
that
meeting,
anymore.
No, and that's,
borrowing
we're very fortunate for that.
Gazillions of dollars, like, I hope I don't have to pay this back, you know. And some of which it's all paid back. It's that during that period, we're not getting your percent, till you get your tax money.
Just moving around.
Okay, so Fund 27, you'll see the revenue and then the expenses line up exactly the same because that fund balance Fund 27 has to balance out by the end.
What is Fund 27?
That's special
Special
education, and that's a mandate.
That's a
Special
mandate, it has to
education and
be-
food service cannot go in the red.
Well, you cannot, you has to have a zero balance.
Right. Right.
Zero balance, so it can't, if you made money, then it goes into Fund 10. If it lost money, it comes out of Fund 10.
Fund 27 never makes money.
No.
Never, never. Fund 50 can, but then it's really amazing if it does.
Well, and with Fund 27, we have to do what's called a maintenance of effort. And because we get money from the Fed and all that, and if we do not spend as much as you did the year before, and you do not have an authorized reason for that, you get penalized. You get a bill from the state saying that you did not spend as much money. So basically what they're saying is they want to supplement with these aids and grants and stuff. They want to supplement, they do not want to supplant. So you have to keep spending your money.
Always overspent, right?
So,
Well, it's the state, I did that for, yeah, memory.
Yeah.
And we lose it.
Well, anyway,
Yeah.
I'm off that soapbox, okay. So then, Fund 38, you'll see is the property tax for $131,945, that's the revenue, and that goes right to paying off the principal and loan note for the energy efficiency project, which you have 3 more years to go. All right, and then we'll be done with Fund 38, and you can't do another energy efficiency project for another 998 years. That's when Governor Walker changed the 2 to a 3 in 2018 to 3018. Yeah, so that'll be done. Fund 39
Did you
is.
leave that note in your desk though for that person?
Put it on the record. You can go back to that,
Oh,
yes, yes.
This desk will probably be there in that year.
Fund 39 is the property taxes that we will receive and some interest, and we receive that money by the time we make the payment for the expenses of the notes and principals for there. And then Fund 46, the only interest we'll have is the interest on the money sitting in that account, and as we spend that on projects, that's a conservative number as well. Fund 49 is our building project here. And we have 2 incomes. One is interest on the first 20 million we put away on bonds, and then the construction project gifts. We've received 2 of the 3 payments for the $2 million gift we received. So that's fantastic. And then Fund 49 is our building construction, and we have $18,294,000 there, and we'll keep building that building now, so, yeah.
When does our operational referendum end?
This year, we have $2 million on the
This is-
revenue limit worksheet, and it ends. So we will be talking about the November election. The laws for when you can run a referendum have changed. It has to be during a regular election now, and you're limited to 2 times in a calendar year. So my recommendation will be we would go forward in November, because then you have April as a backup. Yeah, those rules have changed dramatically in the last few years.
So it ended this fiscal year. It will end this.
it'll
In
end in
2021.
2021 is the last,
Oh, okay.
This is
we
the
still have
second
the
year.
2,000 in this,
All right.
yes.
$49, because that's $49, so $50 then is your food service, which again has to be, and that's gonna be very interesting because the income, the revenue generated by pupils, the 66,000 is lunches, the $500 is à la carte items, and 7,000 is breakfast. We don't know what our student attendance will be, so based on the number of students we have attending, well, based on how many meals folks can have the opportunity to purchase, and there may be a change in culture on some people saying, I'm only gonna bring my food from home and eat exactly that, and only that because of the, I don't know, we'll see how that works. That's gonna be interesting. Food service really changed this year, and for next year it'll change. But our expenses are pretty much known.
Did the free and reduced lunch program get some kind of hit because of the school being closed?
The free and reduced lunch rate did not change when the COVID hit and we started delivering. The government said deliver to everybody. We don't care if they're free or reduced or not, we're gonna reimburse for all meals.
Oh.
And so we started sending meals out to everybody, and we gave families the opportunity to opt out of receiving meals. And then we watched it go from in the 600s to, it was in the 440 range for quite a while per day, and it ended up just under 400 at the end. And I thought that was interesting because I thought as unemployment and people weren't working and time went by, we would see an increase in the numbers rather than a decrease in the numbers.
Must be a lag period, I mean, when they qualify or don't qualify?
That had nothing to do with qualifying, everyone qualified for, this was just during the COVID year. So everyone qualified, so we said, all right, we're sending out to everybody, and we told people, if you do not want this service, you can opt out. And as it went, we had a few hundred saying, thank you, we don't need it. We had a lot of people say, please give it to someone else, we can't do that. We could deliver it to your house and you could give it to her, but we couldn't transfer it ourselves. And so we had quite a few in the beginning opt out, but then we had people opt out all the way to the very end, and that was not what I expected. I thought we'd have,
I think it might be that kids got weary of that bagged lunch. There were people that really didn't need it, and they got weary of it and thought, we're gonna opt out. My grandkids all opted out because they got tired of it.
and then maybe,
You know, and, well, they're in high school, so. So that might, I think that might have been some
that
of
could be
it.
it, yeah, that could be it. I was just surprised, I thought unemployment would go up and more people would need
Not
it.
that the
but-
bag lunch was bad, I just think they,
Well, there's only so much you can do with a
There's
bag
only so
lunch
much you can
every
do with
day.
it.
And
Pretty creative.
they were very creative.
They were very appreciative.
Yeah, they did,
Oh, the neat program, but I mean,
Very
no,
appreciative.
no, you shouldn't at all, no.
it was great, everybody.
Yeah, no,
The
they
bus
did.
drivers liked doing it, the people liked dropping it off, except in the rain, and
yeah.
everybody liked seeing them come around.
Did it rain the day you went out?
Did not rain the day I went out, but they were very appreciative.
Yeah, it was a good experience for anyone who rode those buses. Yeah. So that's Fund 50, and then Fund 80 is the community fund, and that has to be for anything that's open to the entire public, so that would be like community classes we offer, those are offered to anybody, and Ecolab, the expenses we can have out there in that area, and you gotta be very careful of Fund 80 because, well, $20,000 where it's at, and that's where it should stay at. Some
Under
people,
Fund 50 where it says like health insurance, 29,024. Is that like one employee?
Two,
too.
Oh, two employees.
the head cook and the food service director,
So your annual premiums are about 14,000.
14,512. That's what we're paying per year.
That's pretty good. For a full-time employee.
Oh, yeah,
That's
yeah.
nice.
We pay 88%, the district pays 88%, the employee pays 12%.
So this is your portion.
That's our portion, yeah, we don't worry about their portion.
Okay, so.
And the same thing if
premium
you-
is another, okay.
And if you look at the retirements, the retirement rate is set every January for WRS, and we pay half, they pay half, but what you're seeing in the expenses is just our half, because that comes out of their check.
Right now, it's 6.75%. When I did the budgets and that, I bumped it up to 7%. Because as the economy gets worse, they bump their percentage up.
And he doesn't find out till,
Till
we
about-
run July 1 to June 30th, and that changes January 1st. So it changes midstream on us.
Yeah.
So then, that's the art of, accounting.
Creative accounting.
Well, you gotta plan for that, because you don't know what January's gonna bring. Yeah. Any other questions about the preliminary budget?
We don't need any action on it.
No,
No.
it's just,
So at what point will you determine what our shortfall will be and what we might have to do as far as referendum?
June, July, by August.
August,
Yeah,
okay.
yeah, it'll have to.
That on the list right
Yeah,
there.
it's on the list too, yeah, it's there, it's good.
What did you say?
I was being, after the last 2 days with
Yeah.
Kyle, I was just saying, just put on his to-do list right under the COVID.
Under the
problem.
COVID, yeah,
That's all
okay,
that.
got it.
And by the way, referendum plan.
We'll get there.
Okay.
Building's going up, it's all going.
But you're gonna have to be willing to argue, is that in some people's minds, are gonna say, well, because of the COVID, the kids aren't going to school, so the costs are down, so why should I say yes to this? I mean, I'm just saying.
I know that's, I understand that
That's gonna
point,
be
I
something
just,
you're gonna have to be willing
I just
to-
know our staff's worked harder in the last 3 months because it's a learning experience, it's new, it's, and they're.
Because that's a story you're gonna have to win.
Oh, yeah, well, that's not a story, that's the truth, that's not a
Yeah.
story, yeah, that's true, yeah.
It is something though that has to be brought forward to the community. and
Like, so what is, some of this, are we able to put together like a flyer of the summary of what the request would be and some talking points or why it would be reasonably justified? Is that, can we do that? I mean, versus I know that can't be separately, some citizens can have a yes or
We
no
can't be
group.
yes or no, we need to be factual
So
in
we can present
information, just
facts.
like on the building referendum,
So
we'll
we
be
could
factual
put
on.
together some
Mhm.
information sheets when we have the,
Yes.
when we have the homework done.
Absolutely.
Okay, all right. Next question.
Then we'll look to accept the resignation of Rob Coleman as the assistant varsity boys basketball coach.
Move to approve the resignation of Rob Bowman, assistant varsity basketball coach.
Second.
Questions or discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carried. And the resignation of Bogdan Sedenko as the girls soccer coach.
I make a motion to approve the resignation of Bogdan Savenko as a girls soccer coach.
Second.
Questions or discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carried. Then we need to take action on the proposed ratio of coaches and teams based on, coaches and number of teams based on the student athletes. You have that in your packet.
What I really like about this document is then we don't have to come back every season when we know what our numbers are. We have a guideline, and we know if we have this many student athletes, then this is the number we're going to. One adjustment should be noted on here for track and field. It says high school 4 coaches, middle school 2. They actually share the shot put discus coach between the two, so it's 3.5 and 2.5. And how's that work? The shot, but the throwing coach always goes to meet if there's a meet. If one has practice, one has a meet, they always go to the meet. But they work with the throwers from both middle school and high school. So it should be 3.5 and 2.5.
Would someone like to make a motion to approve that document?
I move to approve the ratio of coaches and teams based on the number of student athletes with the change noted under track and field to be high school of 3.5 and middle school of 2.5.
Second.
Questions or discussion? Hearing none, all,
Can I just
Go ahead.
give you a little more input?
Yes.
There was also discussion about unpaid coaches. Came up through some of the coaches. You don't put unpaid coaches on here because this is who the district says we need to have for the appropriate supervision for the students, an unpaid volunteer. If we said we need one unpaid volunteer for each coach, then we'd say, well, we're responsible for that individual because whatever team it is needs one more adult, and then we're recognizing that the ratio we have is sound, and a volunteer coach would be a bonus, but isn't part of what we're requiring.
Questions on that? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Motion to approve the membership in the Fair Aid Coalition for the dollar amount of, I don't know where it is, about $1,200.
$1,165.30.
Someone want to make that motion?
Move to approve the payment to Fair Aid Coalition of $1,165.30.
Second.
Questions or discussion?
Sue, do you want to talk about how the Fair Aid Coalition is changing their approach?
Yes, the coalition has hired Peter Goff, who is an assistant professor of educational leadership and policy analysis at UW-Madison. And he will be looking at various ways of getting at minimum equalization aid for districts like ours that do not receive any equalization aid currently. And one thing he will do is look at the guaranteed minimum aid of $1,000 per student, which is an approach that the Fair Aid Coalition has taken in the past, but he will look at different ramifications of that. He will also look at increasing the primary guarantee to broaden the districts that qualify for state equalization aid. And then he will look at introducing more categorical aid to address staffing challenges, particularly in rural districts like ours. These are just some of the approaches that he's going to be looking at, but he will be reporting back to the coalition no later than July 31 of this year. So there are about 55 districts in the state that are in this position of receiving no or minimal equalization aid. And when we heard from Joel Kitchens last, Joel said he thought it was a matter of time before we would be able to crack the ceiling and hopefully get more equalization aid. So Mr. Goff comes highly recommended as a policy analyst, and we're looking forward to his report, which I certainly will share with the board.
And so if I may, so he'll, the Fair Aid, they hire him, he does this report and analysis. The Fair Aid Coalition then uses that information to go and lobby to
To
our
the legislators, yes. Kelly McDowell is our lobbyist, but we all lobby our representatives. Joel Kitchens and I have had many conversations about this. I've had some connection with Senator Jacques as well. But I think we can count on Joel's support for this.
For a lot of districts, it's a substantial amount of money that they receive. I
Yes.
think at one time, I think Sturgeon Bay is what, about 3 million plus?
I don't know.
Yes.
Luxembourg Casco is probably around 5 million. Yeah, so that's why they're looking for a base per student.
It's a hard nut to crack because
Yeah.
there's like 50 districts like this, but 375 that think you guys are rich. You don't need it.
And if there's one pot of money, so you're robbing Peter to pay Paul, and you're shifting it around, and each student isn't valued the same in the state. Ours are worth 10,000 something odd, and there's other districts where their kids are only worth $9,000, and then Gibraltar's the top of the whole state. So there's that disparity there of what a student is worth. So it's a tough, there's so many variables, and you move one, and everything else changes with it.
And the sad part is, in our district, yes, we are property rich, but
Yep.
many of our families work in seasonal jobs, jobs that don't have benefits, or are lower paying jobs.
Right.
So, you know, you may own a lot of property, or you may own wealthy property, but you can't pay your taxes with that. So, you know, like our farmers own a lot of land that's valuable, but you can't pay taxes with that.
Well, but the other people in those rich districts, they don't see that part of it.
I know they
And our
don't.
farmers don't pay really much
Yeah,
tax
no,
on their
they're
land.
Not on their land, but they have to pay other kinds
Well,
of
property
tax.
tax.
Yeah.
This is a property tax issue.
Yeah.
And it is,
So,
yeah, it's,
okay, any questions on that? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carried. I'm gonna rewind, there's one thing that we didn't do. On the committee for the Equity Committee. Sue, you want to be on that committee?
Absolutely.
I would like to be on that committee. I admit I'm dubious, but I'm looking forward to being convinced that we need it. And I guess we could put one other board member on, we could have 3. So,
I'd be happy
okay. Do we need I guess we'll take a motion to approve those 3 committee members.
So move.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion carried. I'll look for a motion then to.
give Carl a moment.
Yeah.
Carl.
So moved was, I think, the,
Oh, yeah, that was a so moved.
We've been trying to not do that anymore.
So who,
Harassing.
Jerry?
I get spanked. when I
Jerry,
do
Jerry
that.
made the motion, yes.
Second?
Somebody calls me and
I
says,
did.
don't allow that.
Is it, that's not a nominate, what is that to
Appoint.
appoint? There we go. Got it.
Then I'll look for a motion to convene to executive session.
So moved.
Second.
Roll call vote, Dave,
Aye.
Jerry,
Aye.
Cindy.
aye.
Aye.
All right.
Aye.
Motion carried at 9:11 PM. Back in open session at 9:41 PM. We'll look for that motion to approve the middle school, high school English teacher.
I make a motion to approve Sarah Moraski as the middle school, high school English teacher.
Second.
Questions or discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carried. We do not have a special education aid to consider tonight. Our next meeting is July 16th.
Unless we need a special meeting before that.
If there's a special meeting before that, Mr. Wupe will advise us and we'll have to pick a date for that. Is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carried.